So how did the candidates perform during that debate? Arise News analyst Mahmud Jega joins us for a review. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight tonight.
Good evening.
So what stood out? I imagine that you've watched the debate, and because it was repeated, there was a repeat broadcast this evening for our viewers who missed it earlier on in the day when it was live. What stood out for you? What's your initial take about the performance of the three candidates? The debate centered on security, economy, infrastructure, education, health, environment, and others.
Yeah. Well, not very surprisingly, the ABGA candidate, Professor Charles Soludo, came out as the most eloquent, probably with the richest background. And also he appeared to have thought deepest about the problems at hand because he produced a comprehensive manifesto which he kept referring to on all the various issues. As I said, not very surprisingly. And he said some very useful things about attracting investment to Anambra State. For example, he said that China and India are both facing rising costs of production. The same problem that drove millions of jobs from the West to China and India, they are having the same problem. He is not the first person to say it. Some Western economists had been saying it. So it's an opportunity for countries like ours to grab the opportunity if they can. So he said that, very important. Now he tried to score some below the belt scores, like saying Chief Andy Uba, the APC candidate, had no secondary school certificate. Well, he denied it. He said he has a 1974 certificate. He also said Chief Andy Uba, who was part of those who kidnapped the then Governor Chris Ngige in 2004. Again, Chief Uba said that was not true. He was with President Obasanjo outside the country when it happened. Now, the biggest problem that Professor Soludo has, being the ABGA candidate, is that he has to defend the record of the current governor of Anambra State, Willie Obiano, who is also a governor. So the ABGA. So he has to try to paint a rosy picture of the situation. When the other candidates say that things are bad in Anambra State with respect to roads or security, he has to defend that because it's the same party. And that's the big advantage that the PDP candidate, Ozigbo, has, because he kept saying that it is ABGA at the state level and APC at the national level together that created the problems, because he is a PDP candidate. So he is saying he is the solution because APC and ABGA together could either create the problems or could not solve them. Chief Andy Uba held his own, not as eloquent probably as the other two, but at least he was able to debunk these two major allegations against him about the certificate and about the conspiracy to kidnap Governor Ngige in 2004.
That may need to fact check or be proven. But what's your thinking really on debates in our climate, in our politics, in our democracy? What's the effect? Does it really have any effect or otherwise? Or are we beginning to introduce it, especially with Arise News, and then maybe it could then begin to play a major role in who wins or who doesn't win the election?
It might not determine who will win or who might not win, but it is very important because at least, especially in a state like Anambra that is highly urbanized, it could really influence some people. But I suspect in Nigeria, in a situation like that, and the election is only a few days away, most people would have made up their minds based on loyalty to political parties. But still we will not say that it is not useful, because it might change some minds. And also, whichever one, because these are the three leading candidates. I understand there are 18 candidates standing for the election, but these three parties are the ones probably that have any chance of winning. And whoever ends up winning, we will be able to hold him to some of the things that he said in this debate, which is very important, I think. And then, of course, the trickiest question all of them had to answer was about IPOB. And each one of them was navigating very carefully, because this is very dangerous. You can't come out and oppose them. But there is no doubt that all three of them could not possibly agree with the IPOB agenda. That's why they are standing for election under the current constitution. But they tried, and Soludo in particular mentioned that wealth creation is the ultimate solution, probably saying that, look, it is economic frustration that is causing young people to take up arms in this careless way and be killing. And the others also talked about dialogue and also about the security architecture.
Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your analysis on the Arise Anambra debate that I held earlier today, Mr. Mahmud Jega.